Welcome back to FlyEaglesFly News, where the highs, lows, and everything in between from the Eagles season come to life. The recent clash against Chicago was one of those games that leaves fans torn between optimism and frustration. There was an opportunity on the field, one that felt almost tangible, but somehow it slipped through the team's fingers. Watching the action unfold, it was clear the Eagles were executing in many areas, hitting the marks that fans hoped to see, yet the scoreboard didn't reflect the effort. Conversations among fans have naturally gravitated toward Tanner McKee, with some questioning whether he should replace Jalen Hurts in the starting lineup. From my perspective, the issue is less about who is under center and more about the circumstances surrounding them. Tanner had moments where the potential to make something spectacular existed, especially in short yardage situations where the ground game might have been the smarter choice. Yet he leaned toward the passing attack, sometimes forcing attempts that ended incomplete. The field was open for him. The opportunities were visible, but the caution in decision-making was evident. Hurts, by contrast, brings an instinctive mobility that stretches defenses, turning moments of pressure into opportunities. And this contrast between starter and backup underscores not a weakness in talent, but in how the system supports the players. Watching McKee, it becomes apparent that coaching choices sometimes expose him more than any opposing defensive line could. Even with those frustrations, there were bright spots worth recognizing. The performance of the offensive line, particularly among the rookies, stood out as a positive takeaway. Drew Kendall faced off against Cam Jurgens in a matchup that many expected to be uneven. Yet Kendall held his ground, demonstrating poise beyond his experience level. At right tackle, Cam Williams contributed solid protection, and Fred Johnson appeared more confident on the left side than anticipated. The pressure on the quarterback did arise in moments, but much of it stemmed from questionable play calling rather than breakdowns in blocking. On the skill side, Darius Cooper and Jihad Dawson made crucial plays that kept drives alive, showing flashes of playmaking that fans often crave. It's important to note that while mistakes are part of the conversation, not every misstep falls on supporting players. McKee's interception, for instance, was an individual misjudgment, a misread in the heat of the moment, and assigning blame elsewhere doesn't reflect the reality of the situation. Breaking down McKee's overall performance, the numbers suggest a competent showing for a backup. Completing 21 of 40 passes for over 100 yards and a touchdown is respectable. Yet the two interceptions highlight the inherent risk of relying on a backup in high-pressure scenarios. He has the ability to lead a team needing temporary solutions, but for the Eagles, he remains a supporting piece rather than a transformational presence. More concerning is the coaching approach, particularly the decision to lean heavily on the passing game with a backup quarterback during a critical stretch of the season. At several points in the fourth quarter, the offensive scheme appeared predictable, relying on long passes and high-risk plays instead of integrating the running game or utilizing Hurts' mobility to control both tempo and field position. Tank Bigsby was producing consistent gains on the ground, yet the strategy seemed fixated on forcing throws downfield rather than balancing the attack. An example of the systemic coaching challenges that have emerged over the season. Defensively, the Eagles displayed a mixture of promise and areas needing attention. Schroeder Jr. shined in several moments, demonstrating instincts and tackling ability that suggest he could evolve into a reliable starter. The linebacking group showed overall competence, though coverage lapses by certain players created openings that could not be ignored. Ty Robinson's conditioning appeared to wane late in the game, raising questions about stamina and preparation, particularly for a player expected to cover ground and make rapid decisions under pressure. The secondary had its struggles, with cornerbacks Jory and Bennett committing coverage errors that led to critical situations, including defensive pass interference calls that shifted momentum. Keely Ringo's misstep near the goal line was a particularly costly example, turning his back at the wrong moment and allowing a touchdown that should have been stopped. Despite these challenges, the defensive unit remains formidable, and with proper adjustments, the team has the potential to thrive in postseason matchups. Looking ahead to the playoffs, the Eagles have a strong foundation to build upon. Confidence is growing among the roster as the team approaches this critical stage of the season. Jason Kelce's leadership resonates through the locker room, emphasizing belief in the squad's ability to execute under pressure. The offensive line's health is improving. Lane Johnson's return adds stability, and Jalen Hurts continues to provide a dual-threat dynamic that forces defenses to account for both his arm and legs. Defensively, The unit has been effective in recent weeks, excelling in coverage, tackling, and pressuring quarterbacks. All elements that will be vital against teams traveling from across time zones. This combination of skill, health, and momentum positions the Eagles as a team capable of advancing deep into the postseason, particularly against opponents who may underestimate the intensity of playing in Philadelphia. The offensive outlook in the playoffs is equally intriguing. Fans and analysts alike expect the team to embrace aggression and adaptability. Hurts, alongside A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, has consistently shown the ability to take over games when stakes are high, leveraging instincts and speed to create separation even against elite defenders. The challenge lies in ensuring that coaching decisions match player talent, avoiding predictable sequences that limit the team's potential. A balanced approach, combining Hurts' improvisational skill, a strong running game, and strategic play calling, could tip close contests in the Eagles' favor. Maximizing strengths while mitigating risks remains the core objective as the postseason progresses. Equally important is the psychological aspect of the Eagles' playoff run. Opponents are acutely aware of the difficulties posed by traveling to Philadelphia, facing both a hostile environment and a squad loaded with explosive talent. That home field advantage can translate into tangible performance gains, especially for players like Hurts, who thrive under pressure and feed off the crowd's energy. Still, overconfidence is a real risk. The team must balance aggression with discipline, ensuring that intensity is channeled into smart execution rather than hasty decisions. The running game will likely be a determining factor. In high-stakes matchups, Tank Bigsby's contributions against Chicago demonstrated how a steady ground attack can control the clock, keep defenses honest, and open opportunities for play-action passes. The offensive line, particularly with the return of Lane Johnson, is pivotal for both pass protection and creating rushing lanes. If the line can maintain cohesion, the Eagles will have the flexibility to diversify play calling, forcing defenses to account for multiple threats. Veteran experience, including players like Kells, will be critical in ensuring these elements work in harmony. Situational football and special teams also carry weight in playoff scenarios. Every yard, every third down conversion, and every red zone play can determine the outcome. The Eagles have shown they can capitalize on these moments, but lapses in discipline or missed assignments can erase progress quickly. Maintaining focus in high-pressure situations is essential, and every player must execute with precision, from skill positions to the trenches, because errors are magnified in tight contests. Roster health and stamina will also play a central role. Injuries are inevitable, and depth becomes crucial in sustaining performance over the course of extended playoff games. Hurts' dual threat capability is a major asset, but over-reliance risks fatigue or injury. Similarly, the defense must maintain peak conditioning, as even minor declines in speed or awareness can be exploited by savvy opponents. The postseason amplifies the fine margins between victory and defeat, and every decision from snap management to personnel rotation carries significance. The Eagles enter this stretch with momentum and a sense of urgency. Their offensive stars have proven capable of game-changing plays, while the defensive unit has demonstrated the ability to dominate when fully engaged. Yet, coaching decisions, particularly in play calling, will remain under scrutiny. The difference between a deep playoff run and an early exit could come down to the staff's ability to adapt strategically, maximize player strengths, and maintain execution under pressure. Every throw, every run, and every defensive play will matter, and the margin for error is slim. As the Eagles gear up for the next set of games, the pressure and expectations only intensify. The matchup against the San Francisco 49ers looms as a critical test of both strategy and mental toughness. The 49ers have built a reputation for discipline, physical football, and they do not yield easily, making every decision and every adjustment from the Eagles crucial. Philadelphia has shown in recent weeks that the team is brimming with confidence, but confidence alone cannot substitute for preparation. The energy of the home crowd in Philadelphia will play a significant role, feeding the players, particularly Hurts, whose ability to improvise and extend plays thrives when the stadium is electrified. Yet the coaching staff cannot rely solely on star talent. Strategic diversity will be key. Mixing a stronger running attack with creative use of motion and misdirection can prevent defenses from anticipating the Eagles' movements and force opponents into reactive, rather than proactive, strategies. One of the most telling lessons from the Chicago game was the clear contrast between what the Eagles players are capable of and what the play calling allows them to accomplish. Hurts repeatedly demonstrates that he can create opportunities under pressure, and receivers like A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith can separate from defenders even in high-stakes scenarios. However, when the offensive scheme falls into rigid patterns, the team's full potential remains untapped. For a backup quarterback like Tanner McKee, the margin for error is even narrower. He has the physical and mental tools to manage a game, but without a dynamic, supportive plan that incorporates the running game and gives him room to breathe, mistakes are magnified. This recurring issue highlights a larger systemic problem with offensive play calling that has surfaced throughout the season. Creativity, situational awareness, and a deep understanding of player strengths are indispensable for turning tight contests into victories, especially in playoff situations where every yard counts. Defensively, the Eagles have strengths that can carry them through the postseason, yet vulnerabilities remain. Schroeder Jr. has demonstrated flashes of elite-level play, but the depth chart is competitive, and young players like Ty Robinson need to sustain peak conditioning to endure the intensity of playoff football. The linebacking core shows talent, but must remain vigilant in coverage and maintain stamina throughout extended drives. The secondary, a position group that has occasionally faltered, requires flawless execution, especially in critical moments such as goal line stands or red zone coverage. Keely Ringo's recent misstep near the goal line underscores the importance of precision under pressure, as even minor errors can quickly shift momentum. Still, when operating at full capacity, the defensive unit has the ability to dictate the pace, create turnovers, and disrupt opposing game plans. Consistency and discipline will ultimately determine their postseason success, particularly against teams that can exploit small mistakes. The psychological dimension of the Eagles' journey cannot be overstated. Opposing teams traveling across the country to face Philadelphia are often confronted with a hostile environment and a team full of explosive talent, a factor that can influence the mindset of visiting players. This home field advantage can provide a subtle, yet tangible, edge, allowing the Eagles to play with more confidence and intensity. Yet this advantage carries its own risk. Overconfidence can creep in if focus wavers. Balancing assertiveness with calculated discipline is essential. The coaching staff and team leaders must ensure that the intensity generated by the crowd and their own talent translates into smart, measured execution rather than mistakes born from impulsiveness or complacency. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments and let's talk birds. Whispers began circulating through league circles late in the day, and by nightfall the noise was impossible to ignore. According to sources close to both organizations, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are engaged in advanced conversations over a potential trade that few around the NFL saw coming. While nothing has been signed or officially confirmed, the mere possibility of this move has already sent executives, agents, and fans into speculation mode across the NFC. The rumored deal is being described internally as bold and strategic, suggesting more than a simple exchange of depth pieces. The Eagles, known for their aggressive front office approach, are believed to be exploring a move that could immediately impact their offensive or defensive core. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers appear open to reshaping their roster, possibly aiming for long-term flexibility while remaining competitive in a wide-open conference. What makes this rumor particularly intriguing is the apparent fit on both sides. Philadelphia has assets that Tampa Bay values highly, including draft capital and young, controllable talent. On the other end, the Buccaneers roster includes players who could step into prominent roles right away in an Eagles system built to contend. Now, league insiders suggest that financial considerations and future planning are central to the talks, indicating a chess match rather than a gamble. No names have been officially leaked, but several scouts have hinted that the discussion centers on players with immediate starting potential. If true, this would mark one of the most surprising interconference-altering moves of the season, capable of shifting power dynamics across the NFC landscape. For now, both franchises are maintaining public silence, fueling even more speculation. Whether the talks culminate in a finalized trade or collapse at the last minute, one thing is clear: the Eagles and Buccaneers have the league's attention. If this rumor becomes reality, it won't just be a transaction, it will be a statement that the race for NFC supremacy is far from settled. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments, let's talk birds.